G'day YouTube, it's Turbo Tristan here. Today we are taking a look at Daniels Volvo with a very interesting engine swap. So all Aussie ingenuity, all done himself, all done in the backyard, just with his skills, and he's given this Swedish car a bit of Aussie flavour.
G'day everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm from Melbourne, Victoria, and this is my 36-year-old boxy Volvo. When we bought the car, it was just a 3-owner bog stock 244 Volvo. Grandpa spec, 2.3 litre 4-cylinder. So the idea for the car all along was to build basically a street machine and something different from the norm, rather than a XY or HQ or VC Commodore or Tirana, but I wanted something like Tirana size. So yeah, I've fitted a Holden 304 out of a VS Club Sport. The motor in it now, I've removed the original Holden fuel injection, is now running a Holly Sniper. It's nothing fancy at the moment, stock cam, but it's just been freshened up, new bearings, rings. It's backed by a turbo 350 gearbox and Dana 30 rear end. That's basically it. The engine, as you can see, fits quite well, so there was no cutting or drilling. I fabricated all the mounts which bolt to the original cross member. The trans tunnel was big enough, and yeah, that's it. Like, it fits well. It's got a VS SS radiator from Aussie Desert Coolers. Again, we've fabricated brackets to mount it, but other than that, we haven't differentiated from what Volvo. The body hasn't been modified at all in terms of wheel arch modifications or anything. As you can see, it's currently in high fill at the front because the front end, I changed it to a earlier round headlight front, flat hood. Actually the catalyst for that was because I had someone reverse into me when the car was parked and they damaged the front, so that's what set that off. Unfortunately, I haven't completed it yet, but it is on the list of things to do.
So you mentioned that the body hasn't been modified except for the front swap, and you've put the round
Correct.
lights in there?
Yeah, so to do that, the blinkers are different, so the guards, the hood and radiator support had to be changed. So basically everything in the high fill was changed. But yeah, no, bolts, it all bolts up. Like I said, that this body style ran for 20 years. They really didn't change it. They added plastic to it in the later ones to make it look a bit more modern, I guess.
So stock suspension? Stock
suspension, but got lowered springs in the rear. Front are just standard struts.
Wow.
Like I mentioned, they're 4-wheel disc brakes from factory. They're actually 4-pot calipers at the front, 2-pot rear. They're a dual circuit brake system. It was a safety feature of Volvo. If one line broke or collapsed, it had another line. So braking wise, yeah, it's sort of over engineered. I mean, they're not overly big brakes, so you couldn't sort of track race the car around a circuit, perhaps they'd overheat, but on the street they're fine.
This model's been around for a long time, and anyone that's not a Volvo person probably thinks they all kind of look a bit the same, and they instantly recognize this shape. So what model is it, and how many different variants are there?
There was quite a number of variants in Australia, America and Sweden, obviously, in any other country they were sold. This body style ran for 20 years, from the 70s to the 90s, and like I said, it was mainly cosmetic differences in the vehicles over that time. Generally the cars were well optioned from the factory, like where Holden and Ford were playing the options game in Australia, say with FM radios and carpets and seat belts. Volvo came factory with carpets, AM FM radio, cassette deck, 4 headrests, bucket seats, automatic, power steering, mechanical fuel injection, and you know, the list goes on. So
I think Volvo, someone can probably correct me in the comments, but I think Volvo invented the seatbelt.
yes, they did. Yep. And
Yeah.
I believe that was 56, 57. And they actually invented the 3-point lap seatbelt.
And crumple zones, was it, as well?
So and I don't know the exact facts, but from what I've read, they didn't patent the idea. They
Let
other car manufacturers use the idea, which they said it was more useful as a device to save lives than a device to make money off, basically. So, which is a pretty cool story. And yeah,
That's the exact reason why my grandfather had one, because they were such a safe car, he was always saying.
Yeah, well, stuff like you don't see, like this is 36 years old. These bumpers are mounted on they're hydraulic gas pressurized mounts, so they can take an impact, like I think the advert says like 5 mile/hour impact, and then they just come back out. Like
Yeah,
they
wow.
compress, and that's front and rear. Yeah, and you mentioned the crumple zones. With the original 4-cylinder motor, the engine mounts were manufactured in such a way that if there was a frontal impact, the motor will actually dislodge and drop down.
Go down.
Yeah, the steering column is collapsible three ways, so slides, tilts, and the steering also collapses down in the case of an accident.
So with everything, it's always a work in progress, but
Most definitely, yeah.
what's the future plans for this beast? Driveline, engine, bodywork, anything like that?
Yeah, so definitely bodywork. The paint on the car is actually all original except for the boot. So it's stood the test of time. Does need a respray, but in terms of rust, it's got none. I mean, it's got a few dents here and there. So the ultimate goal is to respray the entire car in its original colour, refit the trim and original badges, and yeah, I don't want to deviate from the shape of the car at all. Like,
So you're going to keep all the side mouldings and everything?
yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Keep it all standard. And basically, I've got a set of standard wheels, steel wheels with hubcaps. So if I want to throw them on for that bit of a sleeper cruise, I can do that. You know, because the only thing really giving it away is the wheels. Future plans definitely panel and paint, and I've got another engine and planning a 355 stroker build for this. Again, it won't be anything over the top. Still be a streetable engine, something I can chuck the family in and go for a cruise. So yeah, that's it. But as it stands now, we're just driving the wheels off it, so you know, get out whenever we can.
How did you get this engine to fit in there? Who helped you? You know, was there a workshop? Did you do it yourself? How did you manage to squeeze a Holden V8 into a Swedish Volvo?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked. So we did do some preliminary measurements before I actually purchased the car, and then set about finding this car, and I drove the car for a few years in standard form, and then pulled it off the road for 9 months whilst completing the conversion. There's nothing available off the shelf to put a Holden V8 into this model, so everything was fabricated at home. I haven't got a workshop, and my garage isn't overly big, so I actually did it in my backyard with the help of my kids, my son, two boys, and actually my daughter. She was on sanding duties, and yeah, we just put it together over time. Like I'm a mechanic by trade, but I've been out of the industry for 10 years, so I'm a excavator operator.
Yep.
But I can TIG weld and I can MIG weld, and I've got both those welders. So yeah, I basically pulled the old motor out, plonked it in there, set it up on timber, got it the way where it needs to sit, and started fabricating the mounts. So the mounts are captive mounts, and they're I made them actually from a 2003 Jeep Cherokee rear control arms. So the bushing is from that.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and then I just, so it's all 5mm steel plated and fabricated, and it bolts into the original holes where the 4-cylinder bolted. So there's been absolutely no cutting or drilling to fit this motor. I could literally put the 4-cylinder back in and it'd be none the wiser.
Wow, that's definitely Aussie ingenuity right there.
Yeah, that's it. You got to do what you got to do. The transmission cross member is actually standard factory Volvo that I modified to take a standard HQ rubber mount. So I could, if needs replacing, it wasn't going to be an issue. Same with the engine mounts, the rubbers are readily available. Setup confuses some people sometimes because the stalks are solid there in the console.
Brings some weird memories, the plugging the seat belt and the fasten seat belt light.
Yeah.
I love all these switches. They look like they're aftermarket, but it's
all factory,
from the day.
Like they that's CDI box and injection, because that all runs to a separate relay and fuse.
Yep. Starts up so nice.
Yeah.
Geez, that's got some boogie.
Yeah. No, she goes all right.
Been a little while since I've been in a V8 actually, like giving it a bit.
Yeah. I don't tend to abuse it much. I got to admit, sometimes I do show off. Like I said, taking off pretty quick from traffic lights, but obeying the speed limit at the same time.
Yep. It's how quick you get there.
Yeah, that's it.
I noticed under the engine bay, it's not only was there a lot of room, but it was so tidy and clean under there. What happened to all the wires and fuse box and all that sort of stuff?
Okay, yeah. So with the I've kept the original Volvo wiring harness for lights, indicators, obviously everything else. Use the starter circuit and safety switch from the Volvo, but the entire loom for engine, ignition, fuel pump, I made myself all new. So I made up a relay box and a fuse box, so everything runs to its own relay and fuse, so it's easy to diagnose a problem, and it's a lot neater, and everything's supplied with the right voltage, because these sniper EFIs are a bit finicky when it comes to voltage fluctuations.
Okay.
So yeah, that was one of the things I thought.
So you killed two birds with one stone.
Yeah. I mean, the wiring being 36 years old, the original wiring wasn't in too bad a condition. They do suffer from the outer sheath breaking down over time, but yeah, like I said, all the main stuff I redid, and the car was I'm the third owner, so there was no butchered wiring to work with in the beginning. Like it was all pretty in good nick and neat. So I had a good base to start with.
So you mentioned you take this to quite a lot of shows. Have you been to any of the Volvo shows? What do those guys think about the car?
Funny you should ask. I've been to one Volvo, it was a car meet and cruise. It was actually Volvo and Saab, so
Swedish.
Two of Sweden's best, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't want to show any disrespect to anyone, but I did get snobbed. As soon as they heard the car and seen the wheels, I think there was only one gentleman that came up to me to have a chat, and everyone else like sort of, yeah, because I guess in the car community you've got the purists.
Definitely.
So it seems with the Volvo community nothing changes. So you've got those purists, and yeah, I guess they may not appreciate any modifications to this type of vehicle, but in my eyes, like, I built the car for myself to enjoy, and that's it. You know, I didn't build it for anyone else or to hold value or anything like that.
Yep.
So yeah, but in terms of your average car meet or show, that's, you know, pretty accessible now with social media. I make an effort to get to a lot of them, to check out other people's cars and to show my own. But yeah, this car, like, I get a lot of good compliments, which is I appreciate, and just you know, it brings back memories for some, the boxy shape and the model, and for others it's like, wow, I didn't even know these cars existed. This is really cool.
Yeah, wow.
Like, so yeah.
Have you got a social media page or anything about the build so people can find you and ask questions about how to put a Holden V8 in a Volvo? Or
I do, yeah. The car has an Instagram page. It's I'm a Sleeper 244, which is just basically show off, just got build photos, so from start to finish, what the car looked like when I bought it, to what it looks like now, and a picture of like engine mounts and underneath the car and fuel system. And I basically did a step-by-step on certain things that I found out myself and I had to fabricate, just so I could help out anyone else.
That's really good. I'll put a link in the description of the video, and I'll write it underneath here of the Instagram name.
Yeah,
I'm a Sleeper 244.
Yeah.
All right, I'll chuck that in the comments.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to know more about it can follow along and go and drop a follow on the Instagram page. Any other interesting stories about the car? Has it been anywhere, done anything?
Actually, this car originally came from New South. The first owner who purchased it was from New South. Then the second owner, who was a friend of the first, brought it down to Melbourne, and then I purchased it off him. He had it for 5 years prior. The car, a bit of a funny story. I'd put a deposit on the car, and I was picking it up 2 days later, and then I had a phone call from the gentleman I purchased it from, asking if he could have the car for another 2 days, because he got a call from an ad agency asking if they could use the car in an Australian Pensioners Insurance Act.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so the car was featured in that ad in 2017 in its standard trim, and so yeah, which I thought was pretty cool.
They really do have that grandpa and grandma vibe about them.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know, some people say they're hipsters cars also, but which they did show that in that ad. But yeah,
not a bad thing. They got drive the price up.
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm like the value of the vehicle didn't really phase me up much. Like, I knew what I wanted, and that's what I sort of set my mind to, and sort of built what I had envisioned. Obviously it's not finished yet, and you know, they never are project cars.
This interior is really, really clean, and it's actually really, really comfortable. Is this all original?
The the interior itself, door cards, dash, original radio, heated controls, the works. The shifter is factory, is all original. The seats you're sitting in are actually out of a 2005 Alfa Romeo 195, I believe.
Oh wow.
And they're literally a bolting conversion. There was one bracket I needed to modify, but yeah, they were bolt in, and that was, I got that information from another Volvo enthusiast about the conversion, and so I set about finding a set and did it. Yeah, but what I did do, which most haven't, is I modified an Alfa Romeo rear seat out of the same car.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a hybrid, part Volvo, part Alfa, and I managed to make them matching. So yeah, it's leather rear as well, same material.
And it's 2005, yet somehow fits the age and model and look of this car perfectly.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, it does. These seats also, they're normally embossed with the Alfa logo in the headrest. Yeah. So I had to hunt around for these ones, but yeah, they worked out well. As you've said, that they are comfortable and they sure do hold you in. I mean, the original Volvo seats were more of a sofa couch, just a slab, you know, comfy, but they didn't hold you in very well.
Shifts well.
Yeah.
I saw you put the Gilmer drive on there. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, yeah. Some people don't rate them. I do. I think the people that are having dramas with them over tighten them purely to get the whining sound that they produce. Yeah. But once they're set up properly and not over tight, they work really well. I haven't had a drama with them at all in the time. I've got no fan in the engine bay. It's a thermatically controlled fan, controlled by the Sniper ECU, 16-inch in front of the radiator.
I was wondering where the fan was. I couldn't see it at all.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Front-mounted fan.
Front-mounted, yeah, it works well. It's quite a warm day today, and the car's just got up to 92, but it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, we haven't had much airflow through it.
No.
So, yeah, that's good. The brakes are awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Those shifts are perfect. Nice and hard. Nice and hard, but with no clunking or anything.
No, that's it. I mean, like if I quieten it down, get rid of this. Yep. You know, if anyone was to hop in it, you would never know. The handle's great.
So that came off the Alfa?
Alfa, yeah, so it's attached to the driver's seat.
Yeah,
so it worked out
awesome.
well because these don't have a console, as you can see. So yeah, just spot on.
I hope you enjoyed that feature. If you did, make sure you drop a like or a comment in the comments below and tell us if you know anyone that owned a Volvo or had one of these, or if you've got any stories, drop them down below. If you have any kind of car with an interesting story or an interesting engine conversion or anything that you think might be interesting, drop us a comment below and we'll get in touch and we'll do a feature on your car. Thanks for watching.